Warning, this episode of Shovelware contains scenes viewers may find disturbing, thanks to Peta's obsession with blood and guts. Viewer discretion is advised. On with the show.
Well, as much as I had hoped, that mask does not protect you from bad games. While some are using the quarantine time to play the newest Animal Crossing or newest Doom game, well, I'm Mr. Shovelware, and we're going to use this time to torture myself per goddamn usual.
This episode is one that I surprisingly haven't thought of until recently, but with the release of Animal Crossing New Horizons on Nintendo Switch, the emergence of one company reminded us that they exist still, rising up from the depths of hell yet again. This company, of course, is Peta. Peta is legendarily infamous for being an obnoxious and very prudent company. Their goal is to advocate for animal rights, something I actually think is really important, but they are very well known for not communicating their message properly and always starting controversy in the process.
Okay, I gotta be honest, I have not seen a single person in support of Peta, ever. Their reputation is so bad that they may as well not even exist. And again, I'm all for animal rights, but this organization takes things way too far and often specifically targets video games and gamers.
For an example of their bullshit, this article from Peta encourages people not to fish or catch bugs in Animal Crossing. I swear, you could say this article was right out of the Onion and I would totally believe you. Animal Crossing's a digital world.
So if this game was specifically telling people to kill fish, and that'd be one thing, but this is literally the most peaceful game in human existence. No one's going out of their way to specifically hurt animals, nor does this game promote any of that type of behavior.
This article even lists in specific what foods you should eat and what clothing you should wear. In the game, a virtual world where it hurts literally nothing and impacts absolutely no one. What a joke.
So I could go on and on about this in whatever articles, but sometimes Peta takes things a whole step further. Now, they can't just leave it to articles and brief videos. Sometimes this organization will literally make entire Flash games to protest. This should be fun. It won't be.
Shockingly, or I guess not really shockingly with a company like this, they've been making these games as far back as 2001 with the game Make Fred Spew, which was a protest against dairy products. You feed Fred dairy, and he spews. What else did you expect? I should mention these games are notorious for being straight up disgusting or gory, probably in a lousy attempt to bring in some clicks for shock appeal. There were some other games when they started out, but the first real notable one was a game called Super Chick Sisters, which spawned a sequel a few years later. For the sake of repetitiveness, I'll focus on that, which is aptly named New Super Chick Sisters. Yeah, good name. Upon starting the game, the story is as follows. Pamela Anderson was captured by Ronald McDonald, who plans to turn her into food.
Well, that's one sentence I never thought I'd say. And why Pamela Anderson? I mean, upon further research, she does actually support PETA, so there's probably some type of connection, but still.
Imagine licensing yourself out to be in this piece of crap. You can even play as her after you beat the game.
You know, this is the second game I know of where you can play as Pamela Anderson. The first being VIP, starring Pamela Anderson. If there's anything we can learn from this, never put Pamela Anderson in your game.
Further expanding on the already mentioned plot, Pamela gets stolen by the Hamburglar, and the two chick characters end up having to save her. And Mario, for some reason, ends up being in the game for some reason that I don't know.
So I'm playing a game with Pamela Anderson, Mario, and some random cartoon chicks. After 5 years of this crap, I thought I've seen everything. I really have. I thought I've seen it all. But no, that's my mistake. Once you think you've seen it all, there's always more.
Mario says that he was too busy playing soccer, playing baseball, and making sequels? Oh, so Mario himself makes the sequels to the games? What? I guess not, because in the next frame, he's hoping that Miyamoto doesn't give him another game offer. So Miyamoto, Mario's creator, just calls Mario when he wants there to be a new game. Are the people who made this game okay and in a safe space to hear information that could possibly harm them? Also, I'm a poohead. Sorry for my mouse cursor being right dab in the middle of the screen. I didn't mean to pull a Pokemon Sword and Shield. The game itself is boring and doesn't have a lot to say about it. I swear, in the late 2000s, there must have been hundreds of these cheap Mario Flash games with the same old tropes and themes. One thing that differs from traditional Mario games is that you have NPCs that speak to you. They have nothing interesting to say and very clearly are the way that Peta tries to convey their message throughout this game. It also just makes no sense. Imagine if you just walked up to someone and they were like, "In the slaughterhouses of McDonald's chicken suppliers, birds are dumped out of their transport crates with no regard for their pain or well-being. Ouch." In terms of controls, the only new move is a down stomp. Think of it like this game's equivalent of a ground pound. You can also do wall kicks, but they're painfully bad. You get no slide animation like you do Mario, and no differing sound effect either. Trying to pull these off with any type of precision is like trying to change the strings on a guitar with your mouth. The power-up equivalent in this game is a box. Yeah, I have no idea what that is, so if anyone knows, I would really like to know because I seriously am lost. The only redeeming part of this game is the cutscenes, but not because they're actually good, but because they're so absurd and random, it makes you kind of curious what's going to happen next. It's weird to me that this game is a parody that includes the characters they are trying to make fun of at the exact same time. At one point, there's a protest of people telling you not to race with Yoshis. Okay, a few things. First off, I can't think of any game where you race using Yoshis. Mario Kart never used animals, and yeah, you ride Yoshi in some games, but it's not like you're racing them, so it's a non-existent issue. Second off, Yoshi is a non-existent animal, so I have no idea who Peta is trying to preach to. And third, their signs make no sense grammatically. They put an apostrophe in the Yoshis, so their signs equate to Yoshi is aren't racing. What? Eventually you run into Bowser and oh my.
That is the worst rendition of Bowser I've ever seen. I mean, it's unmatched. I thought 64's model was pretty bad. Hotel Mario's is better than this. I'd rather see Bowser from the Super Mario Bros. Movie than this. Oh god, this terrifying drawing. I mean, he looks happy, disturbed, angry, and horny all at the same time. This couldn't have been a serious attempt.
Another thing that makes no sense is that you can't swim without a costume. It's like either make the costume available from the start or don't require a costume for swimming. No other Mario game makes you need to power up to swim. You just press the A button. If you're gonna copy Mario, at least copy the good aspects of it. Anyways, like I said, this game is pretty boring with not a lot to say about it until the very end. The final level of this game is one of the most frustrating experiences I've had playing a game. Seriously, we're talking Kaizo Mario 64 flashbacks here. The first part of this level seems completely normal. The second half has this random pipe though that just floats in the sky. Getting across this pipe is extremely tilting. There's a gap in the pipe, prompting you to jump over it. The issue is that the roof of the ceiling is so close to the jump. So imagine the jump of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on NES, but you also can't see what you're doing. And no, you can't just walk over it. What a bullshit pipe. And guess what? When you finally make it over, it's a dead end. Going right has a bunch of enemies, and going left has more enemies and a brick wall. What kind of sense does that make? Where am I supposed to go? If you can't adequately explain where the player should go, you have failed as a game designer, and therefore I'm not wasting my time on your game. Next game.
Okay, next up on our list we have Cooking Mama. Mama kills animals. Yeah, that rolls right off the tongue.
Right off the bat, I need to say that this has one of the weirdest presentations I've ever seen for a game, at least on the menu. It's like two squares just side by side. If I had to guess, they were trying to mimic a DS game, which had two screens, like the original Cooking Mama, but here it just makes no sense. Also, this is kind of a nitpick, but I also don't understand why the left side of the screen says Peta 3 times. Like, we get it, it's Peta. It doesn't even need one logo, honestly. What other organization would make something as trashy as this? Also, why do all these games need this amount of blood and guts? I know it's a drastic attempt at shock value, but not only is it disgusting to look at, it's unnecessary to show to get their point across. It's like having an argument with someone, but they are shoving a loudspeaker near and kicking you in the balls as they scream! Anyways, this one is really a basic point-and-click minigame collection. It's not always easy to understand what you have to do, and sometimes the controls are extremely ineffective. Clicking to drag just doesn't work sometimes, which is really perplexing for a game that's this simple. There's multiple minigames I had this issue with, which is very irritating. A click and point game should not feel this unresponsive. I wonder if some of them were just programmed incorrectly. While trying to color a tofu, for example, both moving the dripper over and holding it does literally nothing. It's kind of funny if you think about it, like they're so desperate to get people to try tofu, but like the minigame where you make tofu doesn't work, so they failed there. In this game, Mama shames you if you're too slow, saying things like, "Oh, too nice." But even if you fail, you move on to the next round, so there's literally no penalty. You don't really have to do anything if you want to beat this game besides click the continue button. Speaking of Mama, she looks deranged. She's a serial killer or something. Is this really their message? People who eat meat are cold-hearted murderers! Of course, this being a PETA game, some of the objectives are extremely gory and grim, such as pulling all the organs out of a turkey. I like how the bull says Majesco on it. They really go to any length possible to make sure that this game is as graphic as they could possibly make it. You can't even crack an egg without blood going everywhere. You can go to the length of putting stuffing back into a bloody and gory turkey. Who would serve that for dinner at the Thanksgiving table? Imagine putting down a turkey for your hungry family and then blood just spills out everywhere. This isn't realistic. Imagine being a kid and finding this Flash game. In fact, it makes me wonder how many kids cried because of this game on Thanksgiving. In this game, you do get bonuses for playing the game, such as links to music videos, which doesn't really make sense because you can just look those up anyway, and also a wallpaper if you want to show your friends or your office how much of a tool you are. After completing the main mini-games, you unlock a bonus round where Mama becomes a vegan and makes a tofu turkey. Here you realize without the shock factor, this game is literally nothing but a cheap Flash game with literally no depth. And that's really all it was to begin with. At the end of the game, you get a cutscene reiterating how much of a serial killer you are if you eat meat. And then you get a hip catchphrase, take the pledge to be veg. Wait, why is the B in B capitalized?
With stuff like this, it makes me wonder if PETA has genuinely ever convinced anyone to give up animal products. And I'm not here to debate what I think is right or wrong with the foods we eat. My main point, though, is that this is a stupid and ineffective way of trying to get your point across. I have no problem with a nice, clean discussion, and I do think there's actually some positive to a vegan and vegetarian lifestyle. But when someone goes to these drastic lengths to convince someone something is bad, they're just insane to me. It'd be like instead of making my argument about a game I was reviewing in a nice, clean, professional manner, I said something like, I don't know, it's hard to think about an example, but something like, these games deserve to be chewed up by a pig and vomited into a sewer, where the game drips down a waterfall that goes straight down to hell into the eyes of Satan himself. Yeah, but I don't say things like that, ever. That's just not my style. Okay, speaking of tofu, next we have Super Tofu Boy. Yeah, Super Meat Boy, but this is Super Tofu Boy.
Okay, this is just stupid. You have all this fudging space here on the side. Why, for all that is good and holy, did they use letterbox for this? Was this supposed to be played on a phone? You know what? That pisses me off more than anything about this game, because you have to pretty much squint to look at this game or just blow it up and make it look terrible. Upon booting up the list of levels, we have more typos, just more capitalization errors. I don't know if that's even interesting to point out anymore. What sucks even further about this game is that for some reason on the website, I was unable to move my character. It was just a still image the entire time, and I tried everything. I actually pressed every single button on my keyboard in vain to see if I was missing something. I didn't want to just exclude this game, so I ended up actually downloading the exe file. No welcome for me showing you this garbage you're about to see. To put it simply, this game is bad. I mean, that's a given if it's something I'm looking at, but the question remains, just how bad is it? Well, if the letterbox screen you are forced to play in isn't enough to tell you, just check out the gameplay. It's almost nothing like the actual Super Meat Boy, and the controls are nothing short of frustrating. Jumping off the walls feels incredibly unresponsive. You may have a few frames to do a wall jump optimally before you fall. It's extremely frustrating to pull up any type of tricks. The fluidity and the precision of the original Super Meat Boy just does not exist here. I feel like a damn ping pong ball just bouncing and flying everywhere. This game also has auto-scrolling levels, which are bad enough all things considered. Graphically, this game is an eyesore. So much red. Again, blood and guts everywhere. Not only is this game extremely low resolution, it just looks unappealing. Not only does it feel cheap, but it almost causes headaches. It honestly feels like I'm looking at some optical illusion of some sort. This is something that realistically could have been made in Scratch. But don't fret, this game gives you amazing hints, such as LOL at Meat Boy's bad breath. Well, you got him there. That's a great rose. Yeah, I'm gonna give up meat because I read that. The fifth level of the game is as far as I could get. This level combines everything I've already talked about being frustrating and multiplies it by about 1.5 million. You can't jump high enough and there isn't adequate time to bounce off. I could not beat this level. I got one jump that could have almost made it, but I messed up because I was so surprised to even get it, and I couldn't recreate it no matter what I did from there. This game is the absolute bottom of the barrel. At least the other games were bad in kind of a comedic way. This game is just awful outright. It's a cruel prank you pull on your friends. There's not a single redeeming quality with this game, and I truly mean that. The graphics suck, the controls suck, the screen size sucks, and yeah, I know the word sucks is getting tired after 5 years of me saying it the amount I do, but if none of these things convince you that this game is bad, well, it being almost unbeatable should be more than enough. Anyways, let's move on. Please, let's move on.
PETA is like a schoolyard bully. You can be minding your own business and come nowhere near it, and it will still find a way to rip into you. And this can't be further from accurate with their next game, Super Tanooki 2D Skin, which is supposed to attack Super Mario 3D Land, which had a power-up that turned Mario into a Tanooki. Okay, a few things, because I seriously don't even know where to start. What's their argument? That Nintendo promotes animal cruelty because Mario eats a leaf that turns him into a Tanooki? It's a fictional world. It's not like Mario skins a Tanooki in the middle of a game. PETA's arguments are never meaningful, but at least with Cooking Mama, it has an ounce of relevance, and Super Meat Boy is based around meat. But Mario 3D Land, could you possibly be more nitpicky than that? Also, Super Tanooki 2D Skin is an awful title. Maybe the game will be better than it.
Yeah, you think I'd learn after 5 years that it's never the case. This game is an atrocity to mankind. It's definitely not the worst PETA game, but that's not saying anything. It's important to remember that this game came out in the early days of mobile gaming. Games such as Temple Run, which became known as the Endless Runners, were becoming the new norm. And honestly, looking at this game, that's kind of what I thought it was at first, since it's structured like one. But there's actually an end to this one. The goal is to finish it as fast as possible to kill Mario. So, go for it, speedrunners. There's almost nothing to say about this game. It has all the essentials of a normal PETA game. Extremely gory with no depth. Hell, at least Cooking Mama had something interesting about it. Here, you literally just run and jump as a skinned Tanooki trying to catch up to Mario. There's no power-ups or anything like that. There's not even any replay value because the game is finite. Hell, at least try to make it interesting. I mean, there are coins. I think those are what speeds you up to catch the flying Mario, but I have no idea. I think mechanically the worst of these stupid games would be Super Tofu Boy, but this is by far the laziest. Mario 3D Land was a non-issue to begin with to target, but at least the other games you could tell that they had fun with and tried to put bonuses and stories in them in a weird PETA sort of way. This is as lazy of a game as you could possibly make. Upon catching Mario, you're greeted with a nice old fudge you, Mario. Yeah, what a dick. You really showed him there. Alright, one more for you. Pokemon Black and Blue with blood spattered over the logo. Should have been Pokemon Black, Red, and Blue, or Pokemon Black, White, and Red all over, I don't know. This one at least returned to a story with some effort into it again. The world is cured. It's the same old garbage at the beginning. Humans bad. And to be fair, this is even a debate within the Pokemon world. This is a main theme in Black and White. Is capturing Pokemon morally correct? But the difference there was that this game is not reality. In real life, people don't go around stuffing animals into balls, so again, there's literally no argument here to be made. Honestly, the presentation of this game is actually pretty solid. Graphically, the game looks better than the other PETA games with a clean, cartoony presentation. However, the gameplay, of course, suffers. Just like the newer Pokemon games, you really just need to spam attacks until the opponent dies. Every time you defeat an opponent, you get a new Pokemon, a new cutscene, and a new prize. PETA sure knows how to be relevant. What a funny and original joke. Okay, honestly, there's almost nothing to say about this game, just like the last one, but I just didn't want to admit it, and the idea of me making a PETA games too in the future kind of makes me sick, so I'd rather leave no stone unturned.
Well, that's PETA games, a pitiful attempt at shock value, but when you remove the shock value, what do you have? You have garbage. Now, PETA hasn't made any new Flash games since 2013, so I really don't think we have to worry about this being a consistent thing in the future, but as someone who actually remembered these games coming out as a kid, it was a strange time. I mean, why would you try to get your point across with a Flash game? That'd be like if I drove home my point about PETA being a bad game company, or just really any game company, by making my own game for people to play on the internet. Who would do... That actually gives me an idea. I need to call an old friend. Mario 64. I mean, it just... We'll find out. What's going on, guys? It's Stray Mouse here. So basically, I'm doing a Let's Play of this Kaiser Mario 64, so I thought I'd just jump in and do a shameless promotion. So, click the link. Hey, what's up, bud? It's been a few years since I last saw you, maybe like 4 or 5. How did that playthrough of Kaiser Mario 64 work out for you? Hey, I canceled it. You know that if you'd called me once in the past 5 years. Well, sorry if this was a bad time to call. I wouldn't want to tick you off or anything. But remember when you made Pac-Man 1.0? Looking at your marvelous experience with the games, I was wondering if you could help me out again. No, you know what? No, I'm not making another game for you. I watched your Pac-Man 1.0 review. You said, oh, this is the one game that I made. You did not make that game. You are a bloody liar. Okay, listen. What if I buy a DVD copy of What If iOS Apps Were Real? Fine, only because I need to eat something today because I'm going to die of starvation because of you.
Pissed, Extremely Treacherous, and Angry is a game where it drives home the point about how bad a video game can be. All you have to do is click on a button and yours truly will say many different phrases.
This game sucks. Flick flack.
Link in the description below.